Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to talk about rarity versus scarcity. This is somewhat of an smpratte rewind. It's a very relevant topic throughout the history of Pokemon and collectibles. It's really applicable to a lot of things in life, honestly, like the idea of what is actually rare versus what is scarce. So a quick breakdown on the difference between the two terms. In my opinion, rarity is more about the number of copies released and that actual limitation, where scarcity is more about the number of copies currently available on the market. Some easy examples to really illustrate the contrast here. Illustrator is rare, Charizard is not. Trophy Kangaskhan is rare, Jungle Kangaskhan is not. These are pretty much polar opposites. You're comparing cards with hundreds of thousands of copies released versus cards with maybe 100-ish copies released. So these are obvious distinctions. And another smpratism that's probably a repeat for a lot of people, set cards, there's always another copy. Now, before the meatloaf stained keyboard warriors come through and let me know, how I only talk about trophy cards and things like that. When I first started with Pokemon, I only did WotC for the first couple years. I don't think I touched a trophy card till like a few years in. So WotC and set cards are extremely popular. They have a lot of relevancy. They are hugely nostalgic, like the fleet of Charizards behind me. They're very iconic. However, they're not rare. That's something I think a lot of people who are new learn the hard way. They're like, but wait, there's a star at the bottom of the card, which means it's rare. The little pamphlet that I got in my starter deck told me this card was rare. The reality is this fleet of Charizards behind me is maybe like 0.0001% of the total population of Charizards out there in the wild. The bottom line is when you can go to the pop report and the total population is more than some small cities and towns, you're probably dealing with a card that isn't rare and it's more dependent on its scarcity. And I think grading is a really good example and a good shortcut for a lot of new collectors getting into the game who aren't aware of like all the minutia about what was this secret super battle tropical mega parent-child Kangaskhan tournament that happened in the 90s. I have to like get all this information to know how many copies were released. It's a really good shortcut to just show you, hey, there's like tens of thousands of copies of this card over 20 years, and there's like, maybe 50 to a couple hundred of this card over 20 years. It's a great snapshot for new collectors to understand that, yeah, maybe that Champions Pack Charizard that's only 2 years old that has more copies graded than like any other Pokemon card might not be rare. So that's probably a very useful shortcut for a lot of people. It's just repackaging the obvious. Grading really gives you a great snapshot of what is rare and what is, scarce. Now, it can be dangerous. Again, everything has a context because when you look at the grading, like the pop report, there's probably a lot of modern energies that are pop zero. Obviously, modern energies aren't rare. That's more of a demand issue, which we'll get into. But the bottom line is scarcity is all about market availability. It's all about what is available today, which is why when a few of these Charizards were on the market around 2020, and you had that meteoric rise in demand, the price followed. The price tracked with that new demand, where now, obviously, it's cooled off because all the other Charizards heard about the demand. They flew in and they brought that price down. So I think grading is a great way to really just understand for new collectors, what is rare versus what is scarce. Of course, it's not 100%. It's just a quick snapshot. One thing I want to get into, though, with scarcity is that you start getting into more of the side quest of collecting, which is grading. And I'm not trying to dog graders here. I'm not trying to dog condition collectors. Obviously, I have plenty of graded cards. But the reality is there's a lot of people who get stuck in the Safari Zone and they just do nothing but side quests. And they get so honed in on condition, when they're paying premiums, whether it's a black label or whatever new thing is happening, they forget to zoom out and say, hang on, there might be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of copies of this card, so maybe this premium I'm paying might not hold. And that's why I wanted to talk about the side quest idea of collecting condition, is that it can really suck you in. I know a lot of people that they see any speck of whitening on there, it's Black Hawk Down. I know plenty of collectors that have like framed all the borders and they measure every single pixel, and if one pixel is off, it's like DEFCON 1. So there's a lot of people who get into the details, into the weeds of collecting condition, and usually you see that more with the scarce side of things, not the rare side of things, because obviously a lot of cards that have maybe a couple hundred copies, it's just one of those scenarios where there's not enough supply to meet that demand. There never will be. So there's plenty of people who would have like a dog-eaten Illustrator or like, any of these cards. Like a Miracle Diamond PSA 3. Like, there's plenty of buyers for that card because, again, there's just so few of them out there that there's people who just take whatever they can get. Where with Charizard and all these other cards, you know, that are put on shelves nationwide, that's something where you can go through and measure every single pixel. So that's another telltale sign, is like when you have people that pontificate about this isn't a true 10, this isn't a true 9, this isn't a true 8.5, it's because you have a more scarce card rather than a rare card. And I know that's kind of tough because for a lot of people it sounds like a synonym, because you can have something that is rare and also scarce, but you can't have a base unlimited card that is dependent on market availability also be rare. You know, it doesn't really go the other way when you're dealing with like these high pop, high, you know, quantity cards. You can't go the other way, but rarity can. Rarity can be rare in its own right, but also extremely scarce. Like, there's plenty of cards like the Snap Magic card that you saw on this channel that didn't appear for like over 2 decades. You know, there's plenty of these cards we've only seen in books and we haven't seen in real life, or maybe, you know, one card here or there over lifetime of Pokemon. And, you know, you can have both of those. But for cards like Charizard and things like that, both are not true. You know, it can be scarce. Like, this card was more scarce in 2020, you know, but today and forever and always, there's always going to be copies available. And I think that's probably, this guy right here is probably the best poster child for scarcity at the end of the day, because you have such a high volatility in price. You can have this card fly to like 5,000 PSA 9 and come down to 1,000 within less than a year. You know, how is that happening? Why is that happening? Because again, it's dependent entirely on market availability, because it's not actually a rare card. It's something that is all about just that market availability. So you have to really get into, again, the minutia, the nuance, the deep state of collectibles, and understand, you know, why is this card trending this way right now? Why is it trending more flat today? This is just the fun of collecting cards, you know, that are popular and are very iconic. It's what I started with, and I still buy them today. But it's just knowing what you're getting into. That's always the point of these videos, is just, again, illustrating what you're getting into. It's not trophy cards or bust. It's just that this is the breakdown of different types of cards, different type of releases. Because there's a huge variety in Pokemon, which is something I wanted to talk about in this video. And I talk about this a ton in Patreon all the time, but I need to talk about more in public videos, that Pokemon has the best array of like options to collect. It's not just trophy cards and modern energies. Like, there's so much in between. There's so many great cards, like the new card that just came out, that Pichu shirt card, or all the non-stop Pokemon Center exclusives in Japan, the mixture of English promos that come out. There's just so many cool things over the past 25 years to collect in Pokemon outside of just getting a PSA 9, 10, whatever, Charizard. There's so much more than just getting like the graded Stonker. Like, there's so much more than that. So that's part of the like subplot here to this video, is to just really explain that this isn't just about like understanding rarity and scarcity, but also there's a huge variety within Pokemon of cards that are more rare or less rare. It doesn't have to be the rarest thing out there, but there's plenty of cards that have, let's say, a few thousand copies given out maybe at the World Championship Tournament, or victory medals, victory cups, PAL cities, lucky stadiums, not awake, Misakis, you know, pick your poison. There's so many great options there in Pokemon that really don't have an equivalent in other hobbies. Like, you don't have this nice balance of like cards that have some rarity to them that aren't obnoxiously rare. Like the guy back there, that Master Battle set, that has some rarity to it. The one behind it, Mario Pikachu, also has some rarity to it. So it doesn't need to just be these like top of the mountain trophy cards. There's plenty of things in between that are a nice grab, that have a nice mixture of, you know what, if I buy this, tomorrow there won't be 1,000 of them graded PSA 10. True story for Champion's Path Charizard. So again, just really trying to bring in the full picture here and zoom out and highlight that it's not just like super rare or super common. There's so much in Pokemon. I could make endless videos about cards that are, you know, in the 1,000 category, 10,000 category, 50,000, you know, awarded category, things like that. There's such a good variety that I don't see in any other hobbies. I'm in sports, I'm in Magic, I'm in video games, I'm in everything. And I don't see anything else like this. Like, Pokemon has such a unique blend of cards that have some rarity to them. And, you know, the scarcity can fluctuate, which of course will fluctuate the price. And the more you know, the more you understand the actual rarity of the items, the better you'll be able to like navigate the market volatility. So the closing thing I want to say here is that rarity is most likely scarce, where scarce is not necessarily rare. You know, it's like what I talked about before. There's no way Charizard can go the other way, but rarity can. And you deal with this, you know, getting into like the thing like the Master Battle set back there, sealed product. You hear that adage all the time that like sealed product only goes up, right? And I think that's mostly true for WotC. Over time, long term, I think WotC product's going to move like that. For a long time, it sat. It just sat there on the shelves. It sat in the closets for a long time. 2020, a lot of WotC product came out of the closet. And right now, it's not really going up. But I think long term, big zoom out, long term macros perspective, yeah, I think it's going to probably have a strong upward trend, or at least a strong trend with lower volatility. I think that's the best way to say it. But the bottom line is you got to remember, sealed product is not over here. Unless you're talking like a legitimate first edition base sealed case. That's a truly, truly rare item. It's very, very limited, especially today. Not a Logan Paul G.I. Joe wrap case, like a truly actual first edition base case. That is a very, very rare, limited item. That was something that was not anywhere near as available as unlimited boxes. Unlimited boxes, hold on tight. This is going to rustle your jimmies. Unlimited boxes back in the day filled an airplane hangar. Like, you know those Anna Pikachu planes? You could have parked one of those in where the base unlimited boxes were. Like, that's how many were printed. So again, that is a great example of sealed, that the first edition base case of something that is truly, truly limited, especially now, where a lot of the other WotC product, it's going to be more in the middle. It's not going to be a Modern Energy. It's not going to be a Champions Path ETB, but it's definitely more in the middle. Again, a nice variety in Pokemon. There's so many options here in the middle. There's so many options from like the mega ultra rare first edition base booster case all the way down to the newest Chilling Rain or whatever thing just dropped. That's, I think, the nice variety you have not only for cards, but for sealed product. But the thing I want to reiterate there with sealed product is I think a lot of people conflate like, okay, well, you know, the prices do well with sealed product, and they're like, yeah, it must be rare, right? Because it can only go one way. It is rarer, I think, than a lot of other options out there, but right now, a lot of vintage sealed product is down from 2020. You know, a lot of the WotC stuff is back to that stagnant, it's holding at a price. It's not going like this, but it is experiencing stagflation a bit. And again, just trying to get into all the little details there, that sealed product is a solid purchase. It's one of those very easy, blind, simple purchases that a lot of people can do. AI could probably do it. You know, it could understand that I buy this, hold this, sell it down the road. You'll probably be fine. But again, just reiterating that there's a variety even with sealed product. Not everything's first edition base case. Not everything's even WotC. Even within WotC, you have the bell curve of certain things like Rocket are more available than others. E-Series, we know the deal, are more scarce. So that's the reality of the day. You're dealing with a hobby that has a phenomenal range of options. You have cards that have a handful of copies that are truly rare, down to cards that have 100 to 1,000 to 10,000, all the way down to Modern Energy cards. And I think that's what makes Pokemon so special. But just the bottom line is that rarity is about number of copies awarded, released, where scarcity is more about market availability. Rare cards can be scarce, but cards that have so many out there, like V-Star, pretty much Charizard. Charizard is not rare. It's the clickbait is real. It's a true 100% statement. Like, Charizard is just not rare. Very popular, very iconic, not rare. That's the takeaway. Again, not dogging it. I obviously have plenty of Charizards. I started with Charizard. I started with nothing but WotC. I did nothing but WotC for like the first year or two at least. I did nothing but going to Target, buying a blister of like EX cards. That's what I was doing back then. That was smpratte in like 2006. Like buying 3-pack blisters of EX and WotC stuff online. That's all I was doing. So it's not dogging any of these cards. It's just really trying to give you the distinction of how to understand rarity versus a card that is scarce. And hopefully this video / little mini tangent here did that for you. So that's what I had, guys. Hopefully this was useful. As usual, you know the deal. Let me know how I feel. And that's pretty much it. Till next time.